Welcome back to The Jump. Fresh off an MVP and game-winning shot for the championship in the Big Three. By the way, yes, it's the last shot in the game, but they had won the game already. Anyway, he did great. He was amazing. Joe Johnson scheduled to work out for the Pistons, Bucks, and Nets, sources told our friend Dave McMenamin. So, first of all, I just want to say that the Big Three has really become such a must-watch thing all summer. It's so fun. It's a way for guys who maybe aren't at the level of being in the league anymore to still show out for all the fans who love to see them. But I love this because getting to see the way guys can show I can still play. So the question, Malika, is since ISO Joe can still play, which team could use him the most?
Look, of the teams that our friend Dave has talked about, I think that he would work really well for a team like Philadelphia or Milwaukee because these are teams that need shooting. They are teams that need their best guys. Shooting unlocks them. I've wondered, how is the Joel Embiid situation going to work now that they have lost so many of their shooters? And so I could see him fitting in really well there, especially because they don't have guys like JJ Redick anymore. They don't have those guys to space the floor. On the flip side, in Milwaukee, I could also see him being a kind of guy who would create space for Giannis, who can, help out Eric Bledsoe and Chris Middleton. That being said, the cap situations of those teams is tricky. So when it comes down to it, that's what makes it a little bit difficult.
I say it's Philly. They need a guy who's not afraid to take and make big shots.
Sure.
And he's like a basketball closer. You plug Joe Johnson in, he knows what to do in the end. Sometimes he'll make, sometimes he'll miss. Is Tobias Harris that guy without Jimmy Butler? It's one of the biggest questions in the league all season. But, Rach, the other problem here for me is Joe Johnson didn't have a job last year. And I respect the fact that he went out there, he made the most of an opportunity in the Big Three, but he's really old in basketball terms. How much is he really going to give a team at this point?
Producer Steve, please tell me how old exactly Joe Johnson is, because
38,
Nick
right?
is turning 36.
Oh, 36.
No,
okay.
you, Nick, are turning 36.
Yeah. I'm an old man. That's right. I'm losing it.
So you should just watch the whole Glass House Stone issue.
Hey, this is my prime, Rach. All these guys, they're past the prime.
Is it really your
38.
prime? Really? Is it your prime? Anyway, that's, again, something we'll discuss.
Not
you are right. Producer Steve confirms Joe Johnson is 38. I do agree with you, although we have seen guys who've been out of the league, back in the league. Yeah. We've seen guys who, for even a big chunk of their careers, were playing overseas and now are vital parts of NBA teams. Now, they were younger at that point, but still. I do think for the right team, right, he could be a presence. And you're right, they're not going to have Jimmy Butler, right? Do you think, though, that now that if he does leap on and catch on with an NBA team, do you think that we will see more guys try to use the Big Three to do this now? My
worry with the Big Three is there's not a lot of guys who have Joe Johnson's talent who can still do it at an NBA level. This is kind of like the retirement home for guys who are coming out of the NBA who still want a platform to play the game. He is a great test case, though, because if Joe Johnson latches on with another team and then has some success, there are going to be guys that are kind of thinking, do I still want to do this? They'll go back to the Big Three and they'll get re-energized and they'll come back in. But I don't know if there are a lot of guys from what I've seen so far that have the talent to take that leap.
Well, we'll have to see if it, as you said, if it works, right? So one of the questions with the NCAA, and should kids still put themselves in college programs, first of all, it's different for every kid, right? But also, we are seeing viable alternatives sort of just spring up and get stronger and stronger. And if we see these kids go to the Australian League and have it work, you're going to see more kids do that. You're going to see more kids who take a year off to just train and do that kind of thing like Darius. So I just think that we will see what happens with Joe Johnson, and you might get more of those kinds of guys you're talking about who are in the Big Three, which is a win for fans because those games are fun. All right, Dwight Howard addressing the LA media for the first time since returning to the Lakers. He did that in a conference call today. Here he said, quote, "My job is to come here and help this team win. It's not to get into any arguments with Shaq or Kobe or anyone. I don't plan on letting anything distract me from helping this team win a championship." Now, I do want to say, I believe that someone on the conference call asked him a question. Okay. You always have to, here's the thing. We always, when you see these quotes, I like it when, as a reporter, I like it when guys answer our questions. So I never bash anyone for shouldn't have been talking about that. He was, I believe, answering a question about the recent Shaq-Kobe hullabaloo, let's call it, that went back and forth. And his point was, I'm not getting involved, which is, of course, not getting involved in a back and forth with Kobe is a very different approach, Malika, from his first stint as a Laker. Yeah. Do you think this experiment's going to work?
Look, I mean, I think that was an interesting statement to make. I'm so glad to hear that he's not planning to get into any of those arguments. That being said, I mean, only time is going to tell, right? And the Lakers have not had good luck with their big men contingency plans, right? They had DeMarcus Cousins. That clearly didn't go the way that they thought it was going to. And the thing is, what Dwight Howard is going to show up in Los Angeles, right? Is it the mature and introspective Dwight Howard who has, spent time kind of trying to fix his body and take some time away? Or is it going to be that kind of drama-filled circle that he's kind of had orbiting around him coming into this locker room that already has the potential to, be a little bit spontaneously combustible? And so that's really the question for him. I think, will those issues leak into the Lakers, because they don't have the culture yet. They haven't established that to kind of to be able to deal with some of the things that Dwight Howard has had following him in his career. So I'm a little bit skeptical.
It just cracks me up that Shaq and Kobe don't always get along on much, but they both dislike Dwight. They don't want to deal with any of his nonsense. But truly, what is the best case scenario for Dwight Howard? This is the problem that so many NBA fans have in the moment. You get caught up on the name. Oh, Dwight Howard. This is not Dwight, who was 24 years old in Orlando dominating everybody. This is Dwight Howard, who's going to be 34, who looks old from a basketball sense, who hasn't given much of anything the last couple seasons. So people get so caught up on, oh, it's Dwight Howard. This isn't the same guy. He's going to the Hall of Fame. But, Race, that made me sad. Dwight Howard, who's going to the Hall of Fame, is on a conference call. It just shows how far he has fallen in the greater depths of the NBA, because almost any other future Hall of Famer gets his own press conference. Here's the jersey. The Lakers are like, oh, here we go again. Let's just do this conference call and get through it.
I mean, look, we'll see if he's on the team. Right? Not only after training camp, but a couple months in. I mean, we'll just have to see. Our producing staff like the fact that he's going to wear 39. So, look for number 39 in your programs, and maybe.
So that'll be a hot seller.
39
number
in
39.
Your hearts, right? I don't know how that expression is. I wish Dwight the best, because I do think continuing to come back and try when things haven't, as you point out, be going well the past few years. A lot of people would have said, great, I'm taking my many millions of dollars and going home.
Yeah.
So I always think that it says something about someone if they want to say, nope, I want to try again. I want to try to do this again. And now we will see how it works out. Here's what The Jump recommends for today. Zach Lowe has a piece on ESPN.com. Is a Big Two better than a Big Three for NBA teams? Give it a quick read during the break, because we will discuss it after this. Marc Gasol iced the win for Spain this morning. Take a look. Draining a late three from the logo.
Zing.
Boom. This was versus Iran. Spain went 3-0 in the first round of the World Cup. Malika, do you expect this? That's a happiness.
Fan is so happy.
Right? And by the way, considering one of the most recent times we saw Mark publicly was like really drunk on a float in the parade, it's nice to see him now doing this. Do we think that he'll be pulling up like this during the NBA season?
I mean, he should be. I think that when he was at his best in the playoffs last year, when I saw him in the Eastern Conference Finals, it was such a difference when he took a step up and was shooting more effectively, that he should be taking those shots, because especially with that team, the changes that team's had in the offseason, they're going to need him to be.
You got to replace those Kawhi points somewhere.
Good. Marc Gasol's going to be the new Kawhi.
Good luck with that, says Nick Friedel. Serbia also went a perfect 3-0 in the first round. Nikola Jokic is insane, people. Passing clinic, beating Italy 92-77. I know plus minus isn't everything. I know it's international competition. He's a plus 79 so far, just 21 minutes a game. Nick, how worried should Team USA be about Serbia?
Very.
Right?
Very, very worried, because this was the team that a lot of people thought was going to give them the best push to begin with. Yep. Now we've seen the flaws in Team USA. You got to be very worried of a Jokic-led group like this.
Although Jokic he's taking load management international now.
21 minutes a game?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe 79 will be his new number. Like Dwight Howard, 39.
Right, 21.
That refers to plus minus.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I want to get back to Zach Lowe's article on the ESPN app today. You should look for it if you haven't read it already. He writes about how the NBA has shifted from a Big Three league, a la the Heatles and the Warriors, to a Big Two league. I would argue the Warriors were like a Big Seven team, but anyway.
Big Five.
A Big Two league with Bron and AD, Kawhi and PG, Russ and Harden, so on and so on. Do you think that these teams will stay satisfied building around max player duos?
I would always take the third guy, Rich. I know there's a lot of arguments for you need depth on entitled teams. I understand. In the NBA, star players always, always, always make the difference. You take your depth. Give me the stars.
I mean, it certainly is the new in vogue thing, but I think, the more firepower, the better. I think depth is important, but if you can have your cake and eat it too, you should be going for it.
I mean, look, part of Zach's point was the cap flexibility, right? And we've seen teams that when they are paying big superstars, especially if it turns into 3 big superstars, you can get locked into these contracts. Then if it doesn't work out, what do you do with them? Can you trade a Chris Paul to an Oklahoma City? Are you always going to be able to find a place to do something like that? But as we saw in Houston, that's a problem sometimes with big 2 teams also. So I'm kind of with you.
It's a reinforcement. The worst thing that can happen.
More good players.
Teams that
better.
sign bad contracts to stars that aren't stars anymore.
And there you go. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow. It's so